Hey everybody, Jay here. Welcome back to the Homestead. Those of you who are just joining us, my name is Jay. We live on an 18-acre homestead in beautiful New Hampshire, and we heat with firewood with an outdoor boiler. I'm going to show you today how to split large rounds with a splitting wedge and a maul or sledgehammer. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you a couple things to check on the log, grain orientation, knots, things like that, what type of tool to use, splitting wedges. We're going to cover it all in this short, quick video. So yeah, let's get right into it. All right, folks, those of you consistently tuning into the channel, we just hauled this wood out the other day, and we have a couple large pieces here that obviously won't fit on the splitter, so it's no big deal. We are going to go old school today. We are going to go old school, sledgehammer, and some splitting mauls. This is how I split all my wood when we first got here on the homestead, before I got my wood splitter and all my tractors and all the other equipment. I split every piece of wood we had here on the homestead by hand our first year here, before the advent of the county line wood splitter. So yeah, let's get right into it. All right, folks, first thing you want to do is you want to inspect your log here for any type of knots. Now, knots are where the branches come out, and conveniently here I have this piece of wood here that has a knot in it. So let me bring you guys in closer and show you what to look for. First thing we're going to cover is where to place your wedge on your log. First things first, you want to take your splitting wedge here and you want to put it on the outside about an inch in. You don't want to put it in the center of the log. That's where the pith is. That's where the heartwood is. That's where the softest part of the tree is going to be. So you want to position your splitting wedge probably about an inch, inch and a half from the edge. You don't want to sink it right in the middle, because all you're going to do is bury it and you're never going to be able to get out of it. Second thing you want to do is you want to start with one wedge here, and then if it doesn't work, think of it as a plane. So if I start my wedge here, all right, I'm going to, in theory, take my square here. Of course, my Sharpie doesn't want to work. This is the plane here that we want to split on. So that's the plane you want to split on. So technically, when we get started, I'm going to put my first wedge here, start it, and then I'll put my second wedge here. You want to keep that plane. You don't want to put a wedge here and then a wedge over here. The way the tree grows in the fibers, they grow vertically, like studs in a wall. So you want to keep your splitting wedges on the same plane to split this in half. But before that, let's talk about knots. So this piece of pine here is a perfect example. You see how the grain runs down and then goes around that knot? If you were to take this splitting wedge, in theory, and keep pounding it in here, what's going to happen is it's going to get hung up at the knot. So you want to avoid any knots if you can in your round. Luckily, our round doesn't have any, but you don't want to start, see, especially right here, up at the top. Can you see that? Hold on, let me move you guys up. Pretend this piece was round, right? You don't want to start right here over that knot, because all it's going to do is come down, come down, come down, and get stuck. You want to start here in some clean wood here, go around the knot. So that's the second thing is you want to worry about knots. So without enough talking, let's get right into it. So first thing you want to do is take, oh, actually this brings me up another good point. You want to be using a sledgehammer or a maul. Look at the difference of material here. See, it's only an inch of metal versus your splitting maul is about 2.5 inches of metal. This is designed to pound steel wedges here. This is a splitting axe. This is not designed to pound steel wedges. So make sure you're using a sledgehammer or a splitting maul if you're going to be pounding metal wedges. So let's set this wedge and get started. All right, so all you want to do is, again, take your wedge and your maul and get that started. Okay, so now that that's started, we can start pounding. Okay, now that our wedge is set, double check, make sure it's not going anywhere. You can step back, make sure you're at a good distance, know where your axe head's gonna strike. If you position your axe right next to it, and then if you bend at your knees and stay where you are, you know you're gonna hit it each time. Now, sometimes this happens, the wedge will start to walk back. All you can do is hit it like this, reset it, okay. See, now let's look at something here. See, now that I've been swinging away, you can see where the wood naturally wants to split. So now this is the perfect opportunity to grab, you should have multiple of these if you're going to be doing this. Grab a second wedge and pound it in right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Take your new wedge, put it in that crack, get it started. Square if you can. And then what you can do is, I can reposition this just a little bit to give me some room here, and give it, again, bend to the knees, square up, make sure I'm going to strike dead on. She fell out, but we have plenty of room here. Now all you can do is chase back and forth. This piece is pretty much split, so we're gonna go ahead and just alternate, boom, 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 and that should break right in half. Okay, so oh yeah, it's pretty much split. So all we're gonna do now is turn this. This should go right with the maul. Yeah! Look at that, folks. So if you look at this log here, it's split super easy. This is your grain, this is your lanes or your highway. No knots, nice and straight grain. This wood was absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and we'll demonstrate one more time, and then we'll wrap up. So this one's pretty big. Let's split this one more time. Now there's two schools of thought here. When you get this split in half, you can try to start what's called quartering, or you can try to dice this in half one more time and then quarter it. Either way, it doesn't matter. This is an abnormally tall piece of firewood. This is well over 16 inches. This is boiler wood. So from here on out, once you get it split once in half, you can either again set another wedge here, or you can try just swinging and breaking it off as is, small sections at a time with your maul. You see what I'm saying here? That piece is about to go. One more swing. Boom. You see what I'm saying? Now you have yourself here. This is long because this is for a boiler, but you have yourself there. Perfect piece of wood. So if we pick up our log again, we can continue to do the same thing. Dice off sections at a time, if we will. Okay. Let's get something under there so it doesn't. There we go. Yeah, that's going right there. Woo! Another beautiful split piece. So, splitting with steel wedges. Well, let's recap from the beginning. Avoid the knots. Check over your log when you start. Avoid the knots. That's number one. Number two, place the wedge about an inch, inch and a half from the edge. You don't want to sink it in the heartwood. The center of the tree is called the pith, the heartwood. You don't want to pound your wedge in there. And then start on a grid. So start at 12, put another one at 6 like I did. Or actually in my case, if you look back, mine was at 12 and then it was at like 7, almost 8. If you pound that first wedge in and that log starts to split across, sink your wedge in the path of least resistance. Stick that second wedge, like I did, in the natural opening where the log is trying to split. And then, once you split it in half, again, you can either dice those, which would be quarters, or you could just shave off the side. I showed you both examples where I diced off the sides a bit, and then the second log, the other half, I used the wedge in the middle, split it in half that way. So, 3 rights make a left. There's different ways to do it. They make a variety of wood splitting axes and mauls and all that good stuff. The mauls are good. The mauls are good and the splitting wedges are good for really big stuff out in the woods. If you need to split in half to get 2 manageable pieces to A, lift, or B, to get under a splitter. So they do come in handy, believe it or not, those steel wedges. But again, make sure you're using a maul or a sledgehammer. This is a splitting axe. Small pole in the back here. You don't want to be using that to pound steel. It'll mushroom and crack, and that's not fun. So anyways, enough rambling, jambling. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the page, please hit that thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate the support. Hope you learned something. And yeah, like I always say, we will see you out in the woods.